Tong, and all of the people who've come to join us, who was sort of, as Lindy said, we're part of a group now. So thank you for your kindness in accepting our invitation once again, so quickly actually from the last series. And we're now listening to the 6 perfections overview today. It's the first session in a series of 4. So hoping that you're very well, and we're so happy that you could join us again. Thank you, Geshe.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, everyone, and for joining. Again, as usual, would like to start with good intentions, motivations. And before that, we'll try to calm and quiet our mind by watching the breath for a few moments. Then we can try to contemplate and think and contemplate that may us coming here together become cause and condition to have the realizations of the practice of 6 perfections within our mind stream. And may it become cause and conditions to obtain fully awakened state, so we can be greatest help, benefit to each and every sentient beings. Then we start with refuge and bodhicitta. Sangye chodang soge chonam la chang dan ne fuj dake jin soge be sonam dola penche sangye do ba sangye chodang soge chonam chang chu ba do dan ne dake jin soge be sonam dola penche sangye do ba sangye chodang soge chonam chang chu ba do dan ne dake jin soge be sonam dola penche sangye do ba. So today's topic will be, as Jenny has just mentioned, would be an overview of 6 perfections. And I think many of you have, heard and you have studied about the 6 perfections, the practice of 6 perfection, probably many, many times. So it might be just kind of so it could have it could have been just a yes. So it could have been just a what do you call reminder for all of you, but anyway, the 6 perfections or 6 paramita are the very the most important practice of the bodhisattvas, or on the path to the bodhisattvas. So in general, the whole lumbering practice can be kind of contents in a three, the foundational or preliminary practices, and the actual practices and the advice of that practices. So the actual practice is the two bodhicitta mind, and then the practice of small and middle scope is as a preliminary or foundation for the actual practice, and then Sikhamida as the advice or precept or commitment of the bodhisattvas to bodhicitta mind. So we could kind of generalize in that way too. So first of all, the 6 perfections are, the practice of perfections of generosity. Second is the morality. Third is the patience. Fourth is the perseverance. Fifth is the meditative concentrations or karma abiding. And 6 is the wisdom. So those are the 6 perfections. And so when we talk about paramita or perfections, there are 2 ways of understanding it, from the result point of view and from the path, cause, or the path point of view. From the result point of view, when we talk about paramita or perfections, then that is only in the state of Buddha. When someone achieves Buddhahood, then they have that perfections, the perfections. So from the result point of view, such perfection is only in the state of the Buddha. But if we kind of understand from the cause point of view, as a path that lead to that perfect state of the being, the Buddhahood, then of course the path itself, the practice itself, the path itself, then it's a perfections. So again, when we talk about the perfection, sometimes we use quite a little bit kind of more loosely and generally, but if we try to be very precise, then the perfections refer to the wisdom realizing emptiness directly, that has been supported by the relative bodhicitta. Your practice of wisdom realizing emptiness directly, that has been supported by the relative or conventional bodhicitta, is the perfections, the paramita. So from that point of view, the direct realizations of emptiness by the arhat is not perfections, because even though it is direct realization, emptiness is not supported by the mind. And then even within the bodhisattvas, those who have not realized emptiness directly, even their realization of emptiness, even they have realization of emptiness, but their realization of emptiness is not direct at the moment. And that, even though that is being supported by the bodhicitta, but still it is not a paramita or perfections, because so that is more precise. But like, the practice but the practice that lead to that kind of wisdom realizing emptiness and bodhicitta, normally, then we, in more loosely, then we can talk as a perfections. So anyway, so that is more kind of more, sometimes we use those terms very precisely, sometimes we use very loosely, so how you use sometimes the terms, So anyway, so 6 perfections are the main practice of the bodhisattvas, 6 perfections, the main practice of bodhisattvas. And even in terms of bodhisattvas, once you achieve the path of seeing, that is, when you have direct realization of emptiness, the bodhisattva who have direct realization, then from that state, then there is 10 bhumi, 10 stages of bhumi. And within each of those stages, even though they practice all the 6 or 10 perfections, but each of those stages of bhumi emphasize on one particular and exile in one particular perfections practice. In the first bhumi, the main focus in the even though they practice all the 10 perfections, but the main perfections in the first bhumi is the generosity. In the second bhumi is the morality. Third bhumi is patience. Fourth bhumi, perseverance. Fifth bhumi is karma abiding. Sixth bhumi is the wisdom. Seventh bhumi, method, the perfection of method. And eighth bhumi, the perfection of power. And then 9, the perfections of the prayer, and the 10, the perfection of exalted wisdom. So in relation to 10 perfections, in relation to 10 bhumis. But of course, among those 10 perfections, mainly, you always see the 6 perfections, the first 6 perfections, mainly the focus on that. So, these are some just the information. How helpful it is, I don't know, in terms, but it is it's a more information. Whether that information is helpful or not, I don't know. But in terms of that, so the 10 perfections is in relation to the 10 bhumis, and the 6 perfections, it says in all the bodhisattva practice actually kind of summarize or kind of contains within the 6 perfection, the practice of 6 perfection, all the bodhisattva practices contains within the practice of 6 perfections. And so, yeah, maybe first, maybe in terms of those 6 perfections, each of those practice of each perfections overcomes is an antidote to certain afflictive emotions. As we know, all the practice has to be a antidote towards afflictive emotions, so that we can reduce some of those afflictive emotions. So the first perfection, generosity, is an antidote towards miserliness or greediness, which come through attachments. Miserliness or greediness that come from attachment. So it is an antidote towards the miserliness, where we feel not enough to share, so we hold very tightly and not unable to share it, because we feel we don't have enough, And then second, the practice of perfection of morality is, antidotes towards harmful physical actions, harmful verbal actions, and harmful mental actions, especially like ill will feeling, and coefficient wrong views. So that is antidote towards those. Patience is antidote towards anger, hatred, resentful, and the perseverance is antidote towards, laziness, the laziness to engage in the virtues, the laziness to engage into a, dharma. And then karma abiding or meditative concentrations is an antidote towards distractions, and here being distracted to, not only being distracted to, from the meditation, from the object of the meditations, also distractions to the, from the Dharma, from the practice of Dharma, from the practice of virtues. And then the wisdom is antidote, antidote towards, ignorance. So in terms of 6 practice, so you can see each of those practice act as an antidote towards those different afflictive emotions. Okay, so when we engage into practice, then it helps us to reduce those different afflictive emotions as we engage in one of those 6 perfections. And it is also explained, the way 6 perfections, why we need the 6 perfections, is because in order to achieve higher state, because in order to perfect and complete our practice on the path to achieve enlightenment, we might not be able to achieve in one lifetime, as much as we want to achieve in one lifetime, it might not be possible for many of us. It could be possible to some of people, who knows, but for many, it might not be possible to achieve in one lifetime. So then, you can need to practice in many lifetimes. And in order to practice in many lifetimes, then, you need to have a better higher rebirth or higher states where you can continue to practice, where you have all the conditions to continue to practice the Dharma and continue to make progress in your path. And in order to have that kind of higher states, over many lifetimes, so that we can progress on the path to the enlightenment, then, we need the support of, excellent materials. And so that comes through the practice of generosity. We need to have a support of body or rebirth that come through the practice of morality. We need to have excellent support of families, friends, and that come through the patience. Then we need also the support of excellent actions and or activities, and that come through the other 3 practices. So in terms of achieving, higher states, so that we can continue to practice life after life to the enlightenment. So therefore, why those practice of 6 perfections is needed. In terms of accumulating, also it can be explained. Also in terms of accomplishing to purpose or to benefit, purpose and purpose of self, in order to complete or achieve or accomplish the higher purpose of others and oneself, then again we need the practice of 6 perfections. So in order to help others, be benefit to others, in order to fulfill the purpose of others, and to be able to help and benefit others, then the practice of generosity is one. The practice of generosity help to be able to provide benefit and help to others when they need, and when we have the ability, and when we are able to practice the generosity, But generosity cannot be a great benefit. While we practice generosity if we harm the other person to whom we are trying to practice the generosity. Even though we practice generosity, but if we do with that kind of harmful, actions, speech, and thoughts, then again the practice does not, the practice of generosity doesn't become very great benefit. Even though we might be able to, relieve someone, let's say the suffering of hunger by giving a food or money. But if you do with the very unkind expressions and throwing it instead of giving gently, throwing it, or using a harsh words, next time don't come around here, saying something like that. Or maybe saying, oh, you have to walk, something like that, something harsh, and also in the mental sum. So the generosity help that persons and benefit that to overcome that, the suffering of, let's say in this example, of hunger. But because of your kind of unkind, harmful speech, it hurts that person. Because the way you give, the way you treat it, instead of giving respectfully, we throw it, doesn't feel hurt. And so your practice of generosity doesn't become so great benefit. While it helped a little bit, but at the same time, because of your such behavior, attitude, and actions, it hurts the others as well. And so therefore, when we engage in the practice of morality, moral discipline, then that is when we engage to refrain from any harmful behavior, actions, in terms of our actions, in terms of our speech, in terms of our thoughts or attitude. So on the basis of that, together with the generosity, and then you apply the moral practice, so then the practice of generosity becomes very, very excellent, very powerful, very beneficial. Okay. So even though you do not have now, without any harmful physical behavior, speech, and attitude and thought, you practice generosity. So it is able to help that person, and you don't hurt and harm that person. But that person, who knows, what their state of mind is in that moment, what their situation is. And sometimes they might, even when you're trying to be so kind and generous and trying to help, because of their state of mind in that moment, they might not appreciate your help. Instead, they might accuse you something. Do you get it? Oh, you are trying to pull me, or you are trying to take advantage of me. And say some nasty things, bad things. And if someone behave that or act that way, then we also get very upset. Here I'm trying to be kind and helpful and generous, and now that person is kind of accusing me and being nasty and unkind. And so if we lose our mind in that moment and become angry, then again our practice of generosity, trying to be help and benefit, does not become so excellent and so good. So in that moment, then we try to practice patience, that even when they respond in that way, you don't allow your mind to be agitated by such person's actions, attitude, and behavior, so that you can keep your mind still, calm, peaceful, still kind, compassion. And so when you apply the practice of patience in such situations, then, the help, the benefit that you are trying to provide for that person become really very helpful because of all this practice coming together: generosity, moral discipline, and the patience. So, otherwise, we lose our mind, and then we might ourselves started to shout at them, be unkind, use a very harmful speech, physical actions and thoughts. Then we cannot perfect and practice the practice of morality. Then our practice of morality started to degenerate. But the practice of patience help us to keep our practice of morality from degenerating. So you see the practice of morality helping the generosity, and the practice of the patience helping the practice of the morality. And combining those three practices together, then we are able to be great help, benefit to others, regardless of how they respond, how they react. So then those three practices really are the tools to be great help and benefit to others. Great tools and practice and method to be great help and benefit to others. And then, in order to achieve our own purpose and our own, meaning, then of course we have to achieve liberation, freedom from all the delusion, all the obscurations. And in order to achieve the liberations or enlightenment, then we need to have the wisdom. Without the wisdom, special insight, we cannot achieve total freedom, total liberation, total enlightenment. And without the meditative concentration on karma abiding, there's no way we can develop special insight, the wisdom of special insight. And without the joyous effort or perseverance, there's no way we can achieve the shamatha. Shamatha or karma abiding. So joy, perseverance help us to develop karma abiding or meditative concentrations. It support that, and that karma abiding or meditative concentrations help and support to cultivate the wisdom, the special insight. And through that special insight, then we are able to overcome all the afflictive emotions and then achieve total freedom or enlightenment. So therefore, those three are needed for that. So three are needed for own liberations, or to achieve enlightenment. And then the other three is in terms of helping and benefiting others. So then also it is explained, if you have the practice of generosity, when you have the practice of generosity, as we mentioned at the very beginning, because it's antidote towards the miserliness, greediness, attachments, So as your practice on generosity become better, stronger, more powerful, then you have less greediness, less attachment, less miserliness. The more your practice of generosity improve, get stronger, the less those afflictive emotions such as miserliness, attachment, and greediness become less and less. And if you don't have strong miserliness, attachment, greediness, then it is easy to practice and keep moral discipline. Moral discipline. A lot of time we break our precepts, our commitments because of attachments. Isn't it? Most time, for example, killing, taking someone's life, a lot of time is related with attachments. And sometimes definitely is related with anger. But even that anger arises from the attachments. I'm angry with someone because I feel he or she is trying to, harm my well-being, my happiness, or well-being and happiness of my friends, families, which I'm attached to. Or because we think, they are creating, more pain and suffering, making more difficult to me, my friends, my family, to whom I'm attached to. So you can see, when we kill it, when we take someone's life, either is attachments, for example, people killing, hunting, for example, hunting is out of attachment. Sometimes it's out of attachment for the meat. Sometimes it's attachment for the fur. Sometimes it is attachment for the other part of the bodies of that in terms of animals, and sometimes you see also in human beings, out of attachments, and so things go wrong, and then they get very upset and they kill it, they hurt, harm. And same with stealing, same with sexual misconduct. You see, most of those coming from attachments. So when you have strong attachments, when you have strong attachments, we are more likely to pollute and break our practice of moral discipline. Less attachments, we are able to keep and preserve our moral discipline better, our precept better. So the practice of generosity, helping the practice of moral discipline. And once you have a good practice of moral discipline, then we try to refrain from any kind of harmful behavior, action to the body, speech, and mind. In terms of mind, ill will feeling is one of those that we try to refrain from having ill will feelings, which is coming from anger, hateful thoughts and angers. So when you are able to reframe, as your practice or moral discipline becomes stronger and stronger, better and better, more and more powerful, then we are able to refrain and restrain from taking the lives of others, stealing, engage sexual misconduct, lying, engage in a harsh speech, divisive speech, at least on that base level, idly gossips, and from covetousness, ill will feelings, and wrong views. So when you are able to practice that very strongly, when you have that strong practice, even when people are not nice to us or any sentient beings, even not only they are not nice, sometimes even they are a little bit nasty to us, unkind to us, still we will not respond and react with a lot of bad feelings, because of your strong practice of moral discipline, because you are able to restrain and refrain from having ill will feelings, bad feelings like that. And so therefore it helps the practice of moral discipline, help your practice of patience. Practice of moral discipline help the practice of your patience. Support your practice of patience. And when you have strong practice of patience, when you have patience to endure any kind of hardship, when you have the patience to endure, any harms, suffering, pain, hardship, then it helps our practice of perseverance in our virtue, in our Dharma practice. So that when we face challenges in our practice, in the practice of our virtues, in the practice of our Dharma, when we face a lot of hardship, challenges, difficulties, we will not be so easily discouraged and give up because of your practice of patience, the ability to endure the hardships. That is one of the patience, One of the patience is to be able to endure whatever difficulties, whatever challenges, whatever hardship that we face in our life, to be able to have the courage and to be able to endure hardship. So when you have that kind of strong patience like that, and when we practice the Dharma, when you're trying to help others, benefit others, no matter how much difficult challenges it might arise, you will not be so easily discouraged. you will not lose your enthusiasm, your perseverance in your practice. So your enthusiasm in your practice of Dharma, the practice of virtues, the practice here, Bodhisattva path, the practice to be benefit to others, will not be, you will not give up, you will not be discouraged, and you will not lose your perseverance and enthusiasm because of that. So the practice of patience really help the practice of perseverance. The practice of perseverance or enthusiasm in virtues in the Dharma practice. And when you have a strong perseverance and enthusiasm in your practice, in your meditation, in your practice, when you have joyful efforts in your practice, then actualizing, karma abiding, or meditative concentration will not be so difficult. Would not be so difficult. At the moment, it's hard for us to develop the meditative concentration or karma abiding because we don't have the enthusiasm, the joyfulness in our practice, the perseverance. We try a little bit, and then again, we don't see the result quickly, we give up. Or we try a little bit, and the practice is not so good, and we get discouraged, because some days the practice are better, some days our meditation is not so great, Some days we are able to concentrate better, some days we cannot concentrate well because of certain, situations, things going in our life or in that moment. And so because your practice, your meditation is not so good, then we think, oh, I better give up, it's not having an effect. I'm not having any effect. So we become very discouraged, and we easily kind of give up. And with that and then there's no consistent, one day we do practice, and then couple of days and we don't do the meditations. Again, maybe after some time, you feel, I have to do the practice meditations. Then you do it, but again, sometime, you feel you don't have time, or you are tired, or whatever, all of this. So we are unable to continue the meditation and practice consistently and long time. Why? Because we don't have the enthusiasm, same level of enthusiasm, same level of joyfulness in our practice, same level of, joyous effort in that. But if we have the enthusiasm, joyfulness in our practice, meditations, we will continue to do no matter what happens. You will find a way to practice even when you're so busy. You will be able to find a way to practice even when you're so busy, even when you feel a little bit tired, because you enjoy that practice. Because you enjoy that practice, even when you're tired, it gives you energy. Before you are feeling tired, and now once you get engaged in that meditation, and that gives you a lot of kind of, enthusiasm, joyfulness, and then your feeling of tiredness also started to decrease. So that is, that come through. So if we have the strong enthusiasm in our meditation, in our practice, joyfulness, enthusiasm, then it wouldn't be difficult to practice meditate. And with that, then, achieving meditative concentration or karma abiding wouldn't be so difficult or too far away. And if we are able to, so therefore, inquiry system of perseverance, supporting and helping the practice of karma abiding or meditative concentrations. And once you have meditative concentrations, then when you are able to concentrate without any distractions, when you are able to concentrate with that of concentrated mind, without distractions, when you meditate on emptiness, then, having realizations, the wisdom of realizing emptiness wouldn't be so far away, so difficult. At the moment, even when we try to meditate, we are unable to have the realizations because our mind is always distracted, not fully there. Even you are trying to meditate, your mind is not fully there. But with that single-pointed concentration, without any distractions, then when you focus, hold your mind in that moment without any distraction, and then whatever meditation you do and hear the wisdom, you can achieve the wisdom realizing emptiness more easily, more quickly. And so cultivating the wisdom in emptiness is not too far away. It becomes easy and you can come. So through that, you can see how each of previous practice help to develop the next level of practice. And that is also one of the reasons why that Buddha gave teaching in terms of sequences, why he gave the practice of generosity first, and the second, moral discipline, third, patience, and then the joyous effort, and then meditative concentration and wisdom. The reason why is given that kind of sequences is for that reason as well, for one of those reasons. As you get better at one of those earlier practice, then it helps for the next level of practice. Next level of practice become more easier because you have the foundation of previous practice. That help the second practice. Also, it is said, among those 6 perfections, the previous are more easier than the following ones. The practice of generosity is more easier than practice of moral discipline. The practice of moral discipline is more easier than practice of perfection of patience. The practice of patience is more easier than the perseverance or joyous effort in our practice and virtues. And that is more easier than meditative concentration, and meditative concentration is more easier than the wisdom. So again, in terms of, easy is more easier in generally, even though for certain individual, maybe because their past imprint, it might be slightly different, but in generally, that is more easier earlier ones than the following ones. Also, it explains in terms of the, subtleties, the following are more and more subtle, and the previous are more and more kind of gross, and maybe in a way easier, So with that, we kind of know, all this practice. In terms of fulfilling our own being or accomplishing our own well-being, in terms of accomplishing the well-being of others, we need to engage in the practice of 6 perfections, all of them. all of them. We need to practice in all the 6 perfections, because some of them, fulfill the well-being of others, and some of them fulfill the well-being of ourselves. In that way, then it fulfills the well-being and purpose of all sentient beings, others and oneself. And we need all those 6 practices in order to help others, as well as in order to help ourselves. So I think maybe, I guess also it is explained, in terms of summarizing all the practice of Mahayana, then again, all these 6 perfections. So it is say, it is explained, by practicing generosity, then one will be able to relieve the other sentient being from suffering, the suffering of, hunger, the suffering of thirsty, the hunger of homeless, the suffering of providing them shelters, relieving of their suffering of being in a poverty or poor situations, through the practice of generosity, helping them to be to free from suffering of sickness, where they are unable to have health, to health support and so forth. So therefore, through the practice of generosity, we relieve of other sentient beings' pain and sufferings to certain degrees. So. And the purpose of practicing Mahayana is to relieve and reduce and relieve the suffering of others. And then through the practice of moral discipline, we don't hurt and we don't harm others. Not only we help and support, but also we try to not to hurt and harm them intentionally. If possible, intentionally, unintentionally, at least intentionally, we try not to hurt and harm others. And that comes through the practice of moral discipline. Through the moral discipline, and we try not to hurt and harm others. So the essence of the Mahayana teachings and the essence of the Mahayana practice is try to help others as much as possible. At least not to hurt and harm others. At least not to create more pain and suffering to others, which they are already suffering and difficult life. They already have too much problem, too much suffering in their life to deal with. So we don't want to create more problem, more pain, more suffering. And so that is through the practice of moral discipline, And not only we don't try to hurt and harm others, but even when they try to hurt and harm us, we try to practice patience and not to retaliate and respond negatively, in a harmful way, in a hurtful way. So we try not to hurt and harm them, but even they try to hurt and harm us, through the practice of patience, again, we try not to respond or retaliate with such a that that will hurt and harm them again. And then through the practice of shamatha, or karma abiding, then we might be able to achieve psychic power, And through the psychic power, then one can be able to inspire, others' mind. We can help others, through the psychic power to understand their state of mind, to understand their situation better. And so through that then to be able to, guide and to be able to give right advice, right suggestions, right opinion, whatever is most beneficial for them. And through that, again, we can help them. It is another tools to be more benefit and more help to others. At the moment, sometimes we have the good intentions to wanting to help. But since we don't have the psychic power, we don't know what is the best. We try to do something, sometimes it doesn't always help them. We think this will be a good advice, sometimes it doesn't turn out it's a good advice. Sometimes we think it is going to be a good suggestions, and sometimes it doesn't, because we cannot read what is best for them. And with if we have the certain power like that, then we can be able to read, and then we can be able to help in that way. So we have more tools to be more help and more benefit to others through the practice of that. Yeah. And through the power of the wisdom, then we can help them. Through the power of the wisdom, then we can, if we have the wisdom, then through the power of the wisdom, then we can help them to realize wisdom within themselves, and thereby liberating themselves from all the sufferings, from the samsara, from all the delusions. And that will be the best way to help and benefit. If we can help them to cultivate wisdom within them, within their mind stream, and through the wisdom that is being cultivated within their mind stream, then that can cut the very root of all their problem and suffering, the all afflictive emotions. And through that, then they can achieve lasting true happiness, liberations. So if we have developed the wisdom through our own experience, how we develop, then we can share, we can teach, share, and through that we can teach them how to do that. And through that, then we can be great help in that way. And through the practice of joyous effort or perseverance, we never get discouraged. When you are trying to be help and benefit to others, sometimes not everyone will appreciate all the time. Even you have the best intentions, good intent, wanting to help and benefit, sometimes they might not, sometimes they might not appreciate that, acknowledge that. They might not be appreciative of that, depending on, their state of mind, their situation, and so forth. And sometimes due to lack of our own wisdom, even though we have the best intentions, when they don't appreciate help, when they do not acknowledge your help, when they do not appreciate your help, instead, as we mentioned before, instead sometimes they can even accuse you of something. In such case, we might lose our compassion. We might be discouraged. We might think, there's no point of helping others. It's better to be selfish and only think of yourself. You know, you might sometimes that kind of thought can arise. You try to help others, but you know they don't appreciate. Instead, they accuse you of something which is not true, unreasonable. So you might be very discouraged, and you might think, you know, it's better to, you know, just be selfish and just work for your, and why bother about trying to help others if they don't appreciate that? And such discouragement can happen, arises. Such thought can arise that can lead us to be discouraged, and that can lead us to be, you know, kind of lose the directions from the Mahayana path, from being compassionate, kind, caring, loving, you know. So, but if you have the, you know, strong perseverance and joyous effort in your practice, then that will help us to keep on the path, and not not become discouraged so easily, you know, with your strong perseverance. Due to your strong perseverance, due to your strong, unshakable perseverance, you know, you will not allow such situations to be so discouraged and give up your practice, give up your path, give up something that you find that you have taken on the journey, your spiritual journey, you know. And so through that, then it helps us to continue to be on the path, continue to be helpful, continue to be kind, continue to be compassionate, caring, regardless of how others respond. And so through that, then you can see, you know, how this is perfection, summarize all the Mahayana practice to be help and benefit to others, and not to hurt and harm to others. And so again, from that perspective, again, why engage in the practice of self-perfection become important and crucial. So I think maybe I don't know. I know today whether we will have a meditation for today, because it's such a broad subjects overview of all six. So I don't know how to combine one particular meditations, but we'll see. So we'll have a 5-minute break. Okay.
Thank you, Geshe. 5-minute break.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you.
So I could take some questions if anyone has questions. From our discussion so far. Okay, there is one I can see. Without the wisdom to give a good advice, how should be help? How should be help those who are suffering? For example, a friend or family member is best just to listen, but not try to advise. Yes, I think best is first to listen. You know, listen well, listen fully, without, and then see whether you listen, and if they are looking for some kind of suggestion, some opinion, some of your advice, then I think you should, then that is the way time where we can give according to what we believe, whether it's correct or not, but at least what we think is the best. According to our ability, what we think is the best, then we can try to. But I think sometimes yeah, best not to give advice unless they are looking for it. Sometimes they just want you to listen it. Some days, family days, friends sometimes might have their issues, their problems, and they just want to share. They just want you to listen. They just want someone to whom they can express it, which they have been holding, so they can let it go. And sometimes that is all they want. They don't want your pettiness, your advice, your opinions. Sometimes they don't want. So I think when those is not, they are not looking for that, I think it's the best just to listen and be there. And but of course, in some cases, maybe they want, they want what is your, what do you think? And of course, when they really ask from their heart, then I think definitely it is a good time to share and give how we feel and what we think. Yeah. Then can you list the 10 bhumis again, please? Okay. 10 bhumis are first bhumi to 10 bhumis. There are different names for each of those bhumis. I don't know, even I can remember all of them now. The first one is the first bhumi, Sarang Rabdugawa, great joy. Second, the second bhumi, Timameva, without strain. So like that, each bhumi has its own different name according to the practice related to, but it is first bhumi to 10 bhumi. And maybe the question might be how those 10 perfections are related with 10 bhumis, And so I think the first six perfections, they relate with that. The first bhumi, generosity. Second bhumi, moral discipline. Third bhumi, patience. Fourth bhumi, perseverance. Fifth bhumi, shamatha or meditative concentration. Sixth bhumi, wisdom. Seventh bhumi, method. Eighth bhumi, power. The perfections of power. The ninth bhumi, the perfection of prayer. And 10 bhumi, the perfection of exalted wisdom, or jnana, or exalted wisdom. So those are 10 bhumi in relation to 10 perfection. Normally you don't hear so much of 10 perfection. Mostly we see 6 perfections. But in relation to those 10 bhumi, then there are 10 perfections that is related with each of those bhumi. So then there is a next question. Is it important to practice as first perfection until you have learned it fully before practices the next perfections? We can practice all the 6 perfections, but maybe we might put more emphasis on first perfection, for example. So while we try to practice all 6 perfections at the same time, we can practice all these 6 perfections at the same time. Of course, moral discipline, we have taken certain precepts, so we try to keep them as much as possible. And when there is situation arises, we try to practice patience. Whenever situation arises, we try to develop our concentration as possible. We try to contemplate on emptiness whenever possible, as much as possible. We try to develop enthusiasm in our practice, meditations, and virtues. So we can all practice, but maybe at the very beginning, maybe we might try to emphasize more strongly on the first perfections. And then when our practice become more powerful, more stronger with that, then maybe we go to the second and we can emphasize on the second perfection. So that way we can move that way as well. But I think it is good to practice all of them, because also due to certain our past imprint, sometimes maybe something can click with some other practice, and that can be again some kind of that can give the fuel for other practice as well, and so maybe, for example, if we have as we practice 6 perfections, and because of our past imprint, maybe, because we have studied and practiced emptiness in the past, maybe something clicked there, and then you might have understanding or realization of emptiness. And if you have that understanding, realization of emptiness, then that can help for your generosity, because then you see all the objects that were attached to are, non-inherently existent. And so you have less attachment to them. And then when you have less attachment, then it becomes easy to practice the generosity and to let it go. At the moment, we are unable to let it go because we are so attached to those objects. And so we cannot let it go. We cannot share it. But if you have that understanding of emptiness, that could help the practice of generosity to really grow very fast and very strongly, like that. And so therefore, I think, and same, like also in Lamrim, when we practice Lamrim, generally, of course, it's a gradual stages of path. First you practice the practice of small scope, and then once you have strong practice that, then you go to middle scope, and then great scope. That is kind of general kind of stages, gradual stages of the path. But at the same time, if we keep on waiting to practice bodhicitta and emptiness, which is part of the higher scope, if we don't practice that, and if we just keep on practicing whole our life with the first, we don't have realization, we do actually have the even imprint with the bodhicitta and wisdom, So therefore, we try to practice all of them, but maybe we might want to emphasize on one particular first subject more at the very beginning. And then after that, we move to this next subject and we emphasize more on that second subject. And then slowly, we move to the third subject, third stage of the path, and we emphasize on that. So we can continue to do that, right now. And so in that way, we have the strong imprint to the whole path, strong imprint to the whole path. Even if we don't have a realization, at least we have a strong imprint for the path, that it becomes much easier in the next time. So that will be my kind of my suggestions, and I think that is also one of the things His Holiness seems to advise very often, when he talk about the stages of the gradual stages of the path, he always emphasize also on that, because once we have a realization of emptiness, that could help our strong devotions to our guru. The practice of guru devotion can be strongly increased, improved. And also the refuge can be also strongly improved, increased. Because once you understand the emptiness, then you understand how precious it is, how incredible precious it is. And once you understand how precious it is, then definitely you have a strong faith to the Dharma, unshakable faith. And because that Dharma comes through the Buddha, then you have a strong faith to the Buddha. And the Sangha, who are also trying to actualize that Dharma within themselves, you also have a faith to them. So then your refuge increase and become stronger. And because we have these realizations, this incredible, powerful realization of emptiness, that came to us directly through the instructions and teaching and encouragement from our guru. So therefore, your appreciation for guru, your faith to the guru will multiply and become very strong. And so that is how those practice can also support earlier practice background. So therefore, it is good to do the whole practice while we try to emphasize on particular stages, one particular practice, and then move on to that. So that one. So I'm so sad about the state of the earth. I'm doing what I can, but I'm becoming depressed. So many people believe the lies that are disseminated by the money powerful. We don't have time to let the earth heal herself. Yeah, I think, I think that kind of feeling, I think a lot of people are having the same feeling of that at the moment, definitely so many people are feeling that way. But again, we shouldn't allow the depressed state of mind to take over and overpower our mind, because that can lead to very dark, we are depressed with one situation, and then again something happened, we are depressed with another situation, and then it build up 1, 2, 3, and then we can really become depressed where we might not be able to function properly, and where we might need medical help, and we don't want to end. And so no matter how the situation, how bad the situation looks, we always have to be optimistic, and we always have to try to find something positive, and trying to uplift our mind. And we can't allow our mind to be occupied all the time with those unfortunate state of being, whether it's earth, whether it's a politic, whether it's all kind of things that is our mind. Can't allow our mind to be to give too much thought on those, and otherwise that can have negative consequences for our emotional health and then physical health as well. And I think it is good. We have to be aware of those things. We have to be aware of that, but at the same time, we shouldn't allow our mind to be too occupied with those thoughts. Instead, we have to uplift our mind and by thinking something positive, because as well as there is negative, there are also a lot of positive things happening. And as much as there are greedy people, there are a lot of people who are trying to save the earth, and who are so it is not like only that there are only people who are trying to destroy it, but there are a lot of people who are there are more people who are trying to save it than few who are trying to destroy it. And even though there are a lot of yes.
Yeah, I've joined a group, and it's sort of political. We're trying to get independent members for our electorate, and basically my, love of the earth and change. We and all repeat all the lies that have been told in the press, and we just smile and say, just think, and it's a privilege to talk to you. It's a beautiful day, just enjoy it. And I smile, and I get home, I just collapse into a heap. I think, oh, that was too hard. I kept smiling all day, and I thought, now I just want to cry.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really, really hard. It's really hard to remain positive. And you wake up and you think, oh, this is terrible. But yeah, so perseverance and patience, but boy, whoo.
Yeah, perseverance, patience, and looking for something positive to uplift and optimistic. There is always news maybe not the news all the time, but if we look around it, there are good things happening, bad things happening, and it depends on where we put our mind. And sometimes it is good to be more balanced, while being aware of that bad things happening, at the same time, not to allow our mind to be just occupied totally by that, also trying to find something good things that are happening. And in that, our mind can become more balanced, because sometimes what you hear in the news is only negative, and so it can be very depressing when even though there are good things happening, sometimes they don't report so much because it doesn't make a news. Things doesn't make a news. It doesn't attract people's attentions. Bad things attract people's attentions, and so therefore they report most of those bad things. And when you are constantly hearing that day and week and months, then it seems like the whole world is going to collapse tomorrow, next week, sometime. Sometimes you can feel like that way.
So much of what you hear is untruthful. It's been put out by marketing people. They're not telling the truth. And that I find very disturbing. They're lying. And I know it. It's very disturbing, and you want to kill them. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. Then there is, I think maybe this might have been last questions. Yeah, it seems. When our perseverance comes challenging, when it's despairing or become weaker at the time, what is the best way to develop deeper? I think, we have to, when our perseverance and enthusiasm towards our practice become weak or decrease, seems to be disappearing, then I think we have to meditate, contemplate on the benefit of the practice. The more you contemplate and the more you understand the benefit of the practice, then that will give you more enthusiasm to practice. So I think that is, we have to contemplate and reflect on all the benefits, the goodness of the practice, and whatever particular practice that you are doing or practice in general, how, if we have those realizations of those through those practice, how our life will change in so many different ways, and all of that, all the possibility that, and the more you see, then you feel, because we really want, the more you understand the benefit, then you really want that. And if you really want that, then you will have more enthusiasm to do that. It is then when we don't see so much of benefit of our practice, then we lose our enthusiasm, and we lose our enthusiasm when you don't see the benefit of the practice. But the more you see the benefit of practice, the more you feel the benefit of the practice, the more you will feel more enthusiasm to engage in the practice. So I think in those situations, maybe it is good to really reflect, contemplate more on the benefit of the practice. Okay. So then we will do the dedications. So then we can dedicate all our virtues to develop the practice of six perfection and bodhicitta mind within the mind stream of ourselves and all sentient beings as quick as possible. And for us to achieve fully enlightenment as quick as possible for the benefit of all sentient beings, and lead and guide them to fully enlightenment. We dedicate for the long and healthy life and of His Holy Dalai Lama, Kyabje Lama Sopa Rinpoche, all the holy beings, all their noble deeds and wishes be fulfilled. We dedicate to be more harmony, more peace in the world, less fighting, less arguments, and for people to benefit each others. Kyawa di nyudu da lama sangye dubyone doa chekya male ba te sala kwe ba chanju semjo rinpoche magye kan kyawa nyamba me ba kongwe kongdo kyawa. Thank you everyone, thank you. So next time maybe we will be able to go more detail in each of them. So today we just have the overview, so we couldn't get any details in any of those practice. Yeah, thank you, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Very much.
Sure.
Looking forward so much to the next session. And we will try to do our practice in between with great joy. And I look forward to welcoming you again in 2 Sundays' time.
And it's lovely to be able to share with everybody.
Thank you.
It's true.
So have a good weekend. Okay.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Geshe.
Thank you, Geshe.
Thank you, Geshe.
Thank you. Thank you.
Everybody
Bye.
for joining.